Those are his books on the top there. Those are all his books.
Most of them about Knaresborough.
How did he find out then about Royal Maundy connection when no one else had?
Well, I think he was writing the history of St John's Church, and he came across the manuscript. It was a transcript of a very old document. Dad was always determined to get to the bottom of everything. So he went down to London, and he actually found the original document, which was called the Rotulus Missae. It was an expenses document of King John's expenses while he'd been here, and it said very much so in the original that he had given alms on Maundy Thursday to 13 paupers. He'd given them 13 pence each, and girdle and breeches, which were underpants apparently, according to Dad's book. Essential items if you're poor.
He rewrote history, really, didn't he?
Yeah. And it was new from the point of view of, it was interesting from 2 points. One was a date, but also King John had been excommunicated the November before in 2009 because he hadn't agreed with the Pope's choice of Archbishop of Canterbury. It was called Stephen Langton, I think. So he'd been excommunicated and he wasn't supposed to be having services at all. So that I think Dad's theory was that he saw this as an opportunity to say to the Pope, hey, I'm still a loyal subject of the Rome, you know. And the other interesting thing is, I'm beginning to sound like him, aren't I? I'm sorry.
You're very...
Is this what he was like?
The resemblance is uncanny.
The other interesting thing was that up until that point, people had thought that the number of recipients of the Maundy was equal, certainly in King John's day, they thought it was equal to the years that he'd been on the throne. But John had only been on the throne 10 years, since 1200, so it can't have been that because he had 13 paupers. So Dad came to the conclusion that it was John saying to the Pope, look, I'm still a loyal subject of yours, because the Pope had a very similar service in which he gave 13 priests, he washed their feet and he gave them bread and wine. I shut up now.
I was just going to say, Dad was a school teacher. I think he'd have given you 10
I think it'd have been 8. I got 8. You never got 10.
Did very well, Ruth. You remember?
I'd give you 9.5. It was very, very good, I have to say. How proud was he that he'd found this out?
He was very proud.
Oh, tell us about the Queen. When
Can I tell you about the Queen?
Yeah, go on.
Well, when Arnold was the mayor the second time, we were invited to go to Ripon Cathedral for the Maundy service. And afterwards, of course, he had to tell the Queen all about the Royal Maundy. When it finished, she looked rather puzzled, and she said, "Didn't the Royal Almoner know about that?" And so I chipped in without thinking, and I said, well, they do now, don't they? And the Queen looked vaguely amused.
It's a wonderful story of someone's massive passion for history, but he was also really passionate about the church, wasn't he?
Yes, he was a Methodist local preacher.
Yeah, Methodism.
He was an expert, actually, on the Wesleys, wasn't he?
Oh, yes, he was. Yes,
he was an expert on many things. He was an expert on Yorkshire dialect. And languages. He would have enjoyed talking to you.
Would he now?
They would.
Yes,
oh, he
would.
would.
What do you think he's thinking now, looking down on us?
He's thinking, I would be... You've missed something out. I would have said that.
The streets around Westminster Abbey in the heart of London were crowded yesterday morning with groups of sightseers, all eager to watch the first public function of the Queen's reign.
The Maundy ceremony was the very first royal duty performed by our present Queen after the death of her father back in 1952. And during her reign, Her Majesty has overseen a change in the established tradition of Maundy Thursday. The service, which always used to take place in London, has since early in her reign been held at different cathedrals. And although it is the Queen's personal choice as to where the service will be held, she is advised by her Lord High Almoner, a member of the royal household. For the last 12 years, this position has been held by Bishop Nigel McCulloch, Bishop of Manchester. And each year he delivers a lecture to the Royal Maundy Money recipients. This year, the service is taking place in Derby Cathedral.
I think that someone grandly called the Lord High Almoner more properly belongs on stage in a Gilbert and Sullivan operetta.
But it's a very historic title. It goes back to the time of William, back to the 1100s, and it was really a very significant role, particularly in those early days when the Lord High Almoner was responsible for reminding the sovereign daily to remember the needs of the poor. And he'd have been responsible for making sure that about 10% of the food and the cloth that was used in the court was distributed among the poor, and there would be the people outside waiting for the food, the soup or whatever to be doled out, which incidentally, of course, is the origin of the phrase the dole queue. There has been, during part of the history of the Royal Maundy, the custom that the sovereign did actually wash and kiss the feet. One of my predecessors was kicked out of office because one of his jobs was to make sure that the feet had properly been washed beforehand and also kiss the feet. And there was this person whom he was in front of, and he just couldn't face having to kiss these feet. And so what he did was that he got his hands and he pushed his thumb in between them so that it looked like the big toe and kissed that instead. But he was caught out and he was out of office. It would simply be not on, nor has it been for centuries, for the sovereign to wash the feet of the recipients. I think we'd have 168 pairs of feet being washed this year. But what the Queen does do is to echo that act of humility by doing something which is absolutely unique each year, that when she is honouring somebody, instead of them coming to her, she goes to them. The word Maundy comes from the original Latin word that gives us mandate. And so you could argue actually that Maundy Thursday more understandably should be called Commandment Thursday. And it's a reminder of the commandment to love one another. I think that the most important aspect of this service is that people who come feel that they matter, that they are being recognised, and that actually the most important value, the most important quality that we have in our society is the one of love and of caring for each other. That's what really shines through.